Okay, so we just talked about sending out the initial cold emails and how to do that effectively. Let's talk about converting those emails and the subsequent dialogue to meetings. Once you send out a cold email, there's a few things that might happen. Number one, they'll respond positively asking for a meeting. Number two, they'll respond asking you to send more information. 3, they won't respond. And 4, they'll just flat out say they're not interested. Let's talk about some effective ways to handle each one of these scenarios. If they respond immediately positively, your job is to basically convert that to a meeting as fast as possible. Let's say they indicate a day and time that works for them. The next thing that you do is ask them the best number to reach them at and indicate that you'll be sending a calendar invite once you have this. Here's a simple response to that email you could use. Great, what's the best number to reach you at during that time? Once I have this, I'll send you a calendar invite. Looking forward. Now this is the simplest, most ideal scenario after sending a cold email. Let's look at a few more. What happens if they don't propose a time? If they don't propose a time, it's on you to throw a couple times out there. I generally like to try 2 days and 3 times. And the reason that this is that you want to give them options, but you don't want it to be incredibly ambiguous because that's just thinking and work that they don't want to do. Additionally, you can also indicate your openness to another more convenient time if the 2 days and 3 times that you threw out didn't work. Here's an example email response that mirrors what I just described. Great. How does Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time work, or Wednesday at 4 or 4:30 p.m. work for you? If there is another time more convenient for you, let me know. Also, let me know the best number to reach you at so that I can include it in the calendar invite. Looking forward. Pretty straightforward there. What happens if they respond asking you to send more information? This is very important, so pay attention closely. When they say this, you never should send them an information packet or deck if somebody really matters. And the reason is because when you do this, you're letting your ability to pitch your relationship be in the hands of just a static PDF document, which is never going to be as good as you on the phone or in person who can dynamically handle rebuttals, who can build a relationship, who can do all the things that make a pitch successful. So typically the email response from them will look something like, do you mind sending over some more information before a call? So they're trying to get more out of you before committing their time. I think the best rebuttal for this is something along the lines of this email right here. Hi, Target. Our product does X, Y, and Z and is best demonstrated live. More importantly, for us to really see if there's a fit here, I'd like to understand your current situation better. Both things shouldn't take much time. Do you have 10 minutes to hop on a call over the next few days? Let's just briefly go through this email real quick. So the first sentence is just about providing a little bit more context. So our product does these things. This is why you should be interested. And it's best demonstrated live. So I'm here again, I'm pushing and I'm priming for that phone call instead of an email dialogue that I eventually send a PDF on. More importantly, for us to really see if there's a fit here, I'd like to understand your current situation better. Both things shouldn't take much time. So again, this is trying to indicate to them that this is an important call, that you care about them, that you want to make sure that this is all about them and adding value, and it's not about you just pitching or hawking the relationship that you're trying to implement. And again, I always try to stress how this isn't going to take time. Both things shouldn't take much time. Do you have 10 minutes to hop on a call over the next few days? So here you're asking again. And 10 minutes is a magic number because everybody has 10 minutes. The call might take 20 minutes, it might take 30 minutes, or it might take 10 minutes. But 10 minutes just seems far less daunting than a 30-minute call or a call even longer than that. There's just less friction with 10 minutes. Another key element of this email I wanted to call to your attention is the fact that I gave them limited information. If you recall, I simply said our product does X, Y, and Z, whatever the functionality is, and is best demonstrated live. I didn't bring up people that we already work with. I didn't bring up how much it costs. I didn't bring up ease of implementation, all of these things. The idea is just to give as least amount of information as possible that still entices them to want to know more. Because again, your best chance of getting them to want to do a partnership with you, getting them excited, whatever it is done through a phone call or an in-person meeting where you can really calibrate with what's important to them. So just when you send these type of emails, it is important to give them a reason to want to have a meeting with you, but you don't want to give away too much information that forces them to make a decision before you have a chance to pitch them. Okay, let's get back to number 3. What do you do if somebody doesn't respond to your cold email? Quite simply, follow up. It's important to understand that them not responding doesn't mean that they're not interested. Let's go over some reasons why people don't respond to eliminate this belief. 1, they meant to respond and they just forgot. 2, it might have gotten lost in their inbox. Maybe they just had too many emails and for whatever reason it didn't seem urgent. They didn't read your proposition thoroughly the first time, thus didn't realize the value. These are all examples of reasons why people just don't respond to things that they could be very much interested in, which is why it's so important for you to make sure to follow up. Let's talk about the best way to follow up. The way in which you follow up is all about removing all friction for them to reply to you. And the easiest way to do this is replying to the original email so that they don't have to go back digging for context. So what I do is find the first email that you sent, just click reply, which should address it to the prospect again, and say something simple like this. Hi X, I just wanted to follow up on my email below regarding helping you increase whatever your value add is. Is this something you've ever considered? The reason that you do this instead of sending an entirely new email is because you don't want them to have to go digging through their inbox to get the additional context for why you're reaching out and why they should get on the phone with you. When I reply with just a few sentences, I can point to the context so they have it right then and there. And I also increase the odds that they'll read it just because it's 2 sentences. Again, remember, people don't want to do a ton of work. When they perceive something's a lot of work, they'll just skim over it, they won't even read it. So I know that they will read 2 sentences, hopefully, or at least there's a higher likelihood that they will. And if I can get them interested by saying the value add directly in that first sentence, my hope is that they'll read the email below that. And this has worked really, really great for me. So let's go ahead and do a live demo of how to do this properly, just so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are, and we're going to go through a live example of the proper way to follow up. So this is just a cold email that I constructed for myself, and it just says awesome plugin for bdplaybook.com, and I'm just going to fire this away to my lifelong learner email address. So let's send that. Awesome. Let's just say a few days have passed. I haven't heard anything back from Scott. What is the appropriate way to follow up? So you're going to find that email in your sent inbox. You're going to reply to that original email and just say something like, hi Scott, I just wanted to see if you got my email. I just wanted to see if there was any interest in my email below regarding the membership site plugin that guarantees only the people that have invested in bdplaybook.com see the premium content. Do you have 5, 10, let's go 10 minutes this week to discuss getting this taken care of? Question mark. Scott, Cool, I'll send that. And then let's look how easy and seamless this is for the prospect, which is myself, on the other side. Okay, so here we are. So here's the email that I just sent. And you can see how it's pretty easy to read it. I mean, it's 2 sentences. And if this person wants any more context, all they have to do is simply click above, which gives them a little bit more information about why they want to potentially connect with me. This is a whole lot easier than asking somebody to go back through their inbox, dig for the other email, read that, go back, read this again. This is all in one place, which is, again, as much more frictionless than sending 2 separate emails. Okay, so you might be looking at that process and be thinking to yourself, boy, that seems like a pain to go back into my sent inbox and identify that email a couple days after I've sent it and if they haven't responded. Well, I actually use a couple tools to just automate the process of having to remember to follow up. And my 2 favorites are Boomerang for Gmail and followup.cc. And basically what these tools allow you to do is immediately upon sending the email, you can set a follow-up reminder to yourself that prompts you to remember to follow up if you haven't heard back from these people. Right now I'm going to go through a live example of how I use Boomerang to do this, and it works amazingly for just always priming me to remember that I need to follow up with somebody. Okay, so we're back in my inbox. Let's talk about how we can use Boomerang to follow up. So this is the same exact email that I copy and pasted that I just sent, and I'm going to just send it again. So I click send here, and immediately after I send it, I click view message on the top of Gmail, and I click this tab right here, which is Boomerang, and I say, if nobody responds to me, I want this to be pinged back to me in, let's just say, 4 days. So Boomerang is going to do its work, and what will happen is that in 4 days, I will just receive that message back in my inbox, and that will serve as a trigger to remind myself to follow up with that person if I haven't heard back from them. Let's just go ahead and see like an example of a Boomerang message. So here's a message that I Boomerang to myself from Derek Halpern, who's an awesome blogger, basically sent out the fact that he's going to do a live workshop. So what I did was when I saw this, wow, this looks interesting, but I can't process this right now. So I clicked Boomerang. I had this come back to me a week later. And as you can see, 3 days ago, this exact message came back to me, and that served as a trigger reminder that I wanted to watch this. So I highly recommend Boomerang and followup.cc, which you can also check out at justfollowup.cc. And these are both just excellent ways to automate the process of having to remember to follow up with somebody immediately after you send the email. One common question that people have is, how long after sending an initial cold email do I wait to follow up? I try to aim for somewhere between 3 and 7 days. You never want to wait any longer than a week, and I try to give them at least 3 days to respond. Now, is there much of a difference between 3 and 5 days? I personally believe that what matters more is the body content of the email and the fact that that's a compelling value proposition for them to want to get back to you. So I think that within 3 to 7 days, you should be fine. What happens if even when you follow up that second time, they still don't get back to you? Well, if they don't get back to you after the first unanswered follow-up, I then try to go in for a cold call. And we'll review all about cold calling very shortly in the next section. But changing the communication mechanism at that point is definitely a best practice that works. Okay, so we just went over what happens if they don't respond. Let's talk about how to handle if somebody just flat out says that they're not interested. The important thing to understand here is that you need In order to properly disarm a prospect who says they're not interested, you need to understand why they're not interested. And when you understand why is when you can turn a no into a yes. Let's go through some common reasons that people aren't interested. First one that I see a lot is I'm not interested because I'm using a competitor software and they think that your software or your relationship or integration does the same thing. Let's talk about how to overcome this. And this typically takes the form of a thanks, but we're already using X software, or we're already working with Y for this. My favorite strategy to handle this situation is to position your offering as complementary to their existing solution or uniquely different, which ideally it should be. Every single person's company software relationship is a little bit different. So I think that it's totally ethical to think this way. And this positioning your software from the same thing to something that's complementary or uniquely different is what I like to call reframing. So let's give just a great example of a complementary reframe that I saw probably about a couple of months ago that I just thought was an excellent example of this done very well. Okay, so we're looking at an email from a sales rep named Josh to a prospect named Matt who's basically wants to talk to him about marketing automation software. So Josh says, "Hi Matt, I'm sending you a quick note following up on a couple of attempts to reconnect with you. I'd love the opportunity to speak with you about your marketing automation initiatives." Matt gets back to Josh. "Thanks, Josh. We're a long-time HubSpot customer, and while not a proper MA solution, it works really well for us. Have a great quarter, and best, Matt." Here comes the reframe from Josh. "Thanks for the response, Matt. If you're interested in taking a look at our solution, let me know. We're starting to see more companies using HubSpot for their inbound efforts and a true marketing automation tool for their outbound efforts." Okay, so you see what happened here? When Matt originally got back to Josh, he basically said, "Thank you so much for reaching out, but we're already using this, and I perceive that your software does the same exact thing." And this can be your software, this can be your BD relationship, your data, your API, whatever it is. And what Josh does here is basically say, acknowledge the fact that that's great that you're using that, but we're actually seeing companies use our software in tandem with the incumbent because they're complementary. And in this sense, they're complementary for outbound efforts, not just inbound efforts, which is what the incumbent solution does. So did this email actually work? I'm not sure, but Matt thought it was so good that he decided to post it on his blog at blog.bridgegroupinc.com, which just kind of goes to show you that the reframe can be incredibly powerful and it can work. Let's talk about just some high-level thoughts about what you should be thinking about when you do a reframe for your own efforts. First thing you want to do is acknowledge the existing player and the value they bring. So something as simple as, "It's great that you use this. Actually, a lot of our partners, existing partners, use this as well." Or, "It's great that you value marketing automation." Acknowledge that the existing player exists. Number two, then after that point is when you transition your product in a new light. So you want to change the perspective from the prospect thinking that your solutions do the same thing to your solution brings something unique that is slightly different and potentially even complementary to the tool, integration, whatever it may be that they're already engaging in. Here's an exact template that you can use just to crystallize what we just described. I'm going to read it and then go through each section individually. That's great that you guys see the value in whatever your initiative optimizes and are using incumbent software integration, whatever it is. One important component of getting the highest return on investment on this initiative is making sure to whatever your product's unique ability does. Now, if you have some type of article or somebody else saying this, that can really pack a punch here. So I say something like, "Here's an article describing the benefits that you might find interesting." Currently, again, highlighting the unique ability that your product does. is something that our product focuses on, which your current software does not. Let's go through this. Step one, acknowledge that the fact that you think it's great that they see the value in whatever your particular software, partnership, relationship optimizes, and highlight the fact that you're aware that they're using this software. The second half of this email is about transitioning to shedding the importance of your product and how it does something unique, which their current product does not. So I like to set this up by highlighting first the benefit of the unique value that the product brings. So I do this here by saying, one important component of getting the highest return on investment on marketing automation, social media marketing, whatever it is to make sure that you're doing X. And whatever you put here is going to be what the unique thing that your product does, which the current incumbent does not. And again, if you can point to an outside party that talks about why this is important, this statement just packs a whole lot more punch. After you've set up the primer that it is important and that this is why it's beneficial to make sure you're paying attention to this, you then introduce your product in such a way that says, this is something that our product focuses on, which your current software, I'm not sure that it does, which makes us unique. And that's the unique ability reframe. So you can use this script as basically a way to plug and play and disarm competitors when they say that, right now we're already working with this other person. Okay, back to reasons people say that they aren't interested. Number two, they don't have the budget or resources. So if they're buying something, literally, I don't have the money for this. If it's a software integration, maybe even just something as simple as an email list swap. We don't have the manpower to make this relationship possible. Guess what? This rebuttal might actually be a good thing. And the reason is you don't want to spend your time on partners and prospects that will never close because they don't have the resources for what you're selling or proposing. And this is especially the case if there's an abundance of other people that you could be working with. You want to focus on relationships that have the potential to go somewhere, not dead ends that are just going to suck up a lot of your time and energy. Now, if this prospect that says they don't have the resources right now is absolutely crucial to your business, the best thing you can do is acknowledge that you understand their situation, but still demonstrate to them the value that's available, and do this by pushing to hop on a call. Here's a script that you can use. Thanks. I appreciate your transparency and totally understand. Even though you currently don't have the resources, I'd still love to show you the product so you're aware of what's available when the timing is better. Do you have 10 minutes next week to quickly review? If you can convince the prospect to hop on a meeting with you, sending this type of email, it does a few things, even if they don't have the budget or constraint. One, it gives you the chance to turn them. A lot of times people just say that they don't have the budget or resources to do something just as a way to avoid confrontation and saying a flat out no. So this just actually gives you a chance to turn them. If they truly don't have the budget or resources, this just makes you top of mind for those instances when they might actually be able to work with you. So there's no real downside to sending this type of email, and actually, in many instances, people will commit that 10 minutes just to learn a little bit more about your product. If these people don't want to hop on a phone call with you, there's still another thing you can do. You ask if it's okay to occasionally keep them in the loop with new product features and enhancement. And what this does is getting their consent gives you permission to continuously warn them and email them every couple weeks, months, whatever it is, that you otherwise might just come off as spammy if you didn't get the permission. So this is just a gradual process that can eventually get you a meeting if you're just constantly delivering value to them by sending them an email every couple months. And you want to make sure to get the permission, because if someone just starts emailing me every couple weeks and I didn't say they could, it seems off-putting. It's like they're spamming me. Why are you emailing me? However, if somebody does this and I explicitly said that this was okay, all of a sudden I have no one else to blame but myself. So this is just always a best practice to, if you're going to do this, ask for permission or consent. Here's a script that you can use. I call it the Keep Them Warm script. I totally understand that you don't have the budget or resources right now. We're constantly releasing new enhancements to the product. Is it okay if I periodically send you an email just to make sure you're in the know about important new features as they become available? Thanks again for your transparency. At this point, very few people are going to say, no, don't email me. I don't want to ever hear from you again. A lot of people say, yeah, sure, keep me in the loop, because that's just the easiest way to respond to this email. And once you have their consent is, set a reminder for yourself every month to send this person an email, or put them on a list of people that you're going to email when your company does release new enhancements that they might be interested in. The third reason that people aren't interested and may reply that they don't want to hop on a phone call with you: they don't see the value, or it's not a priority right now. Let's talk about how to handle this. Typically, this will take the form of a short email like this. Thanks, but right now we're not focused on whatever your initiative is. If you haven't already, here's where you can leverage social proof or proven results. Proven results are the strongest force in turning a no into a yes. So if you didn't include that in the initial outreach email, here's where you can take that arrow out of your quiver. An example of how to do this. Thanks for getting back to me. I really appreciate the candid response and totally agree with the importance of focus when there's seemingly a million things you can be doing to move the needle. I wanted to point out that we just finished a partnership with a referenceable competitor or someone else in the market that resulted in a 15% increase in traffic. So whatever quantifiable thing that you can bring up, this is where you insert that. If you're interested, I can send over the one-page case study. Interestingly enough, this wasn't a focus for them either when we initially broached the relationship. So this email accomplishes a lot of things. Let's start from the top. Again, here's where you acknowledge the fact that you understand where they're coming from and that it's okay to feel that way. I'm not going to read this again, but that's basically what this accomplishes. Here's where you introduce the referenceable social proof and or results. I wanted to point out that we just finished a partnership with somebody that you can reference is that resulted in this awesome thing. So, this is just about putting a little bait in front of them and saying, you know what, I understand, but we actually can give you these awesome results and other people are doing it, so it might be a good idea. And from here, you're basically broaching on turning this no, not interested into a potential yes. So I like to offer to send over a one-page case study if I have it. And this just reaffirms the results and gives them a way to verify the results. Again, you should always be trying to create case studies that demonstrate that you drive value for people and do it in such a way that's very specific. So the quantifiable numbers are awesome for that. And then I like to finish up with the last sentence that kind of alludes to the fact that it's okay to change their mind. And it's okay because other people have done it. So this wasn't a focus for them either when we broached the relationship. Just kind of demonstrates the fact that other people felt this way, they changed their mind, and they got this awesome result out of it. So this is a great example of a template that you can use when somebody has said they don't want to connect right now because they don't see the value or it's not a priority. Okay, so back to reasons that people aren't interested in having a meeting with you after a cold email. Sometimes people just don't even give an explanation. They'll just say something like, no thanks. Again, the more context that you have for why somebody's not interested, the easier and more effectively you can disarm them and turn that no into a yes. So here's what I do in these instances. I go to their website, their online presence, whatever it is that I'm trying to optimize, and see if they're working with a competitor. Again, a huge reason why people don't work with you is because there's an incumbent player. So see if you can find that out yourself. Here is an example of what you can say if you do find out that they're working with a competitor. Thanks for getting back to me. I noticed that it looks like you guys are currently using incumbent. It's great to see that you see the value in whatever your initiative is. Before working with us, a lot of our current partners were not aware that in order to get the most out of blank initiative, they needed to focus on whatever your unique ability is. Here's an article that describes the results available with proper whatever your unique ability is. If interested, I'm happy to hop on a call and take you through this so you can get a better sense of the enhanced results this can drive. So this just does, follows the framework that we talked about just a few minutes ago, where it starts off by introducing the fact that you're aware that they work with a competitor and that you think it's great that they see the value in that. You want to always coax good behavior, and then indicate that it's okay to turn. So before working with us, a lot of our partners weren't aware of this, that they needed to focus on this. Here's an article that describes the results available with this. And this is educating them on why it's important to focus on whatever the specific unique ability that your company brings to the table. And then after you've done this and provided them with a little ammo to educate themselves, broach the call again. Broach sending them a case study. And focus on the fact that you want to do this so that they can get a better sense of the value that they can drive or the enhanced results. Okay, so another thing you can do if you can't find anything on their site or their online presence that indicates they're working with a competitor is ask friends who have an existing relationship with that prospect or that prospect's company whether they have any insight into why you got the cold shoulder. Your network is not only going to be one of the best places to connect you with relevant people, but even just to gather data on people. Because again, a lot of these people, maybe they're friends, maybe they've done a deal with them before, maybe they even used to work there. These are all instances where you can mine for insight why somebody might not be willing to work with you. And I try to save asking my network these type of questions for instances where only a partner is crucial. I don't want to just be pinging my network 500 times when every single partner says they don't want to work with me. Save it for people that really matter. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't find anything on the partner's website and you can't even find a friend who can give you some insight. In these instances, I'll send an email like this, and again, the goal is to get context so that you can disarm and turn. Thanks for getting back to me. Any particular reason why this isn't a good fit right now? The reason I asked is because two of our most successful partners felt the same way until we were able to educate them on the power of whatever your unique ability is. I'm happy to send over a one-page case study on the results if you'd like. So let's go through this. First part of the email is basically about trying to figure out by explicitly asking why they don't want to work with us right now. And once I have that, again, I can use that as ammo for a proper rebuttal. And then I'll go in and give them a reason why they should get back to me. So what I did here was basically point to some social proof on why this might be worth their time by saying that some other people felt the same way, and it's better if you can explicitly state who those successful partners were, and then tell them that you want to educate them on the power of something, because people are constantly looking for ways to grow their business. So if you can offer up just some educational resources on the power of whatever your unique ability is, it's always appropriate to entice people with that. And then I go ahead and say, I'm happy to send over a one-page case study on the results if you like. Now you might be saying, wait, why didn't you just attach the case study then and there? The reason that you want to ask is because you want to establish a give and take over the email dialogue. The more back and forth that you can establish, the greater the response rate is going to be in the future. And that's because you've kind of built a chain of compliance where this person is just used to responding to you when you email them. And when people begin to develop a habit, they want to be consistent with their past actions. So this is just an excellent practice, is to ask permission to send things over, like case studies, so that you just develop a longer, back and forth email dialogue that optimizes the fact that people are more likely to respond in the future. And I always like to make that call to action, the thing that I ask for, pretty low friction. So if I have no idea why somebody's avoiding working with me or hopping on a call, I won't ask for a phone call or an in-person meeting. I'll ask just to send them something. And I'm hoping that me sending them something that educational that drives value to them is going to warm them up to then ask for something a little bit more with a little bit more friction, like a meeting or a call. And a one-page case study is about as low friction as you can get. And just while we're on the topic of case studies, try to make them 1 to 2 pages. You don't want to send somebody a 50-page case study because nobody wants to read that. People want to avoid work. You want to give them something short and impactful. And when you indicate that something's 1 page, a 1-pager or 2 pages, there's just an increased likelihood that they're going to say, yeah, sure, I'd love to see that case study. So you can even go as far as explicitly stating, would you like me to send over a 1-page case study or a one-pager that demonstrates results instead of just saying a case study? Because a lot of people, they send 50-page case studies. So when somebody sees that word, that's what they associate with a case study.